We're going to begin this hour with the continued fallout from the text chain revealed by Atlantic Magazine editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg, who says that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth discussed operational details of airstrikes in Yemen after National Security Advisor Mike Waltz mistakenly invited Goldberg to join that sensitive private chat. Goldberg published all the messages yesterday for everyone to evaluate them after officials in the Trump administration said the information was not classified. So was it or was it not? Let's talk about it with retired General H.R. McMaster, CBS News foreign policy and national security contributor. He's also a former national security advisor to President Trump. He had the job that Mike Waltz now has. General, thank you very much for joining us. Just bottom line this for us, because there's a lot of he said, she said characterizations of these text messages. Was it war plans? Should it have been classified?
Hey, Tony, great to be with you. Hey, a lot of this is just semantics, right? You know, classified, maybe not because the classification authorities were on the line. And maybe they could say, well, you know, we're the classification authority, it's not classified. But was it sensitive? Was it potentially compromising? Heck, yes. I mean, you know, I think it's apparent to anybody. So if anybody has any doubts about it because they thought, wow, I thought that's kind of sensitive, but now I'm hearing it's not. Yeah, it actually is sensitive. So it has to do with the timing of operations, description of certain targets, kind of alluding to maybe a little bit about how they identified certain targets, the platforms that were used, the specific weapons. Okay, you know, hey, I mean, that's not something that you would put out publicly in advance, you know, of an attack like that. So, hey, you know, Tony, I think the main thing is, wouldn't it be great if everybody said, hey, yeah, we screwed this up.
Yes.
We're going to put procedures in place to make sure this never happens again. And the reason we're still talking about it is because that hasn't been the way they've approached, you know, the messaging associated with this.
I know, General, that was going to be my next question to you. As someone who has worked in the Trump White House, why do you think they are so reluctant to admit what many experts believe was a huge mistake? Why do you think they're so reluctant to do that? And does it say anything to you at all about how they handle this kind of sensitive information? What's your answer to the first question? Why won't they just say, yeah, this was a terrible mistake, we will get it right, we're so sorry?
Well, Gayle, there's a long history here. First of all, you know, it's the president's personality, right? This is no surprise to anybody, right? President Trump doesn't like to apologize for anything, certainly. You know, he thinks it's kind of a sign of weakness. And so, of course, everybody's got to adopt that same attitude. You know, I mean, one of my early experiences as National Security Advisor is after a conversation with my British counterpart, the British counterpart alluded to maybe I had apologized for something, which I hadn't. But it was like, you know, apology gate, you know, and everybody was up in arms about the president in particular. So I just blamed it on Sean Spicer, the White House communications guy, jokingly, you know, because, you know, but that's kind of the attitude that pervades the organization. And of course, you know, hey, I think most Americans, they're going to be pretty tolerant about this kind of thing if they say, hey, listen, you know, we screwed up. It's a new administration. Every new administration has, you know, some degree of friction, make some mistakes. And fortunately, Gayle, right? I mean, there weren't any negative consequences associated with this. It was a potential breach, as far as we know, not like a real breach of that information.
General, what could have the potential
In
consequences
large measure, Gayle,
been?
too. Hey, in large measure, Gayle, thanks to Jeff Goldberg, you know, who they're attacking because he didn't publish it in advance, right? He was responsible about it.
Yes, he was very careful about that.
And General, if this information had gotten into the wrong hands, what could the consequences have been?
Well, you know, I mean, we have certain asymmetrical advantages over the Houthis, but, you know, they've got air defense capabilities. They've been provided by the Iranians. You know, they have these missiles they've been shooting at ships. You know, every one of these missile intercepts, it's kind of like a diving catch, Gayle, you know, so this doesn't come without risk. And it seems easy, like, especially when you see kind of the banter with these texts. But, you know, you had to conduct sustained reconnaissance. You had to then, continue defensive counter-air operations against these missiles. You had to track the targets in real time, strike the targets after suppressing enemy air defense. I mean, you know, our military is so professional. We kind of like take it for granted now. But this is this is a complex operation.
All right, General, it's always good to see you. And just yes or no, do you think allies see us differently after this?
Well, you know, it's not great for the reputation, but we can overcome this. You know, I mean, this is something they should put in the rearview mirror, and the way to do that is to say, okay, hey, we made a bad mistake. We're not going to do it again.
Something what your parents told you when you're a little kid. Just own up to when you make a mistake. We can get through anything. Thank you, General. Always good to see you.